Hello and welcome back to X's and O's. I'm one of your co-hosts, Peter Borkowski, joined as always by my other co-host, Mr. Bubba Hayes. Bubba, how are we doing this rainy Thursday afternoon?
Pretty good, Peter. No complaints. It's been a busy week so far, but pretty good one.
I'd say you need some more decoration for your shelves in your office.
Well, I'm in my old office right now, so
Uh,
I'm actually in the process of kind of packing some
so,
things
so,
up.
so all the hardware has already been moved.
Well, that's just on the other shelf here. I'm actually debating whether I should keep. There's like 20 years worth of plaques and trophies here, and I don't really know how much of it I want to keep. So I might see if there's a separate place I can put it that the school might want
Hmm, We'll see. Plenty of history to go around.
them.
Um, All right, so we're back after taking last week off. I was at a wedding in Chicago. We don't need to discuss it. Moving on. Long, long weekend. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Um, but while I was up there, or the day after I got back, the MLB trade deadline happened. So we're gonna talk about that. Go through some of the big teams that made moves. Not every team, because some teams who give a shit. And just kind of discuss. But before we go team by team, I'm going to jump you with a question here just so we don't repeat ourselves at the end.
Mhm.
Um, we'll get this one out of the way and hopefully knock two of these teams out now. But
Okay.
I want to know, Bubba, your biggest winner and loser from the deadline.
Hmm. That's a good question. Okay. I mean, I'd have to say, I think the winner has to be the Dodgers getting Scooble. I mean, I don't think you could say that. I mean, it's obviously they didn't really have any holes, so it's not like did they get significantly better? I don't know. But if you can go out and get that level of player and not honestly give up that much, I think you're probably the winner.
Yeah.
Um, So I guess I'll say the Dodgers the winner. I would also throw the Rays in there too. I think they had a good deadline. Loser. Hmm. I think a lot of people are probably going to be disappointed in the Brewers.
Yeah.
Just I don't know that they did enough. Um, that's just my opinion. I mean, obviously they got a couple solid pieces, but nobody that I mean, it's not like they also had a lot of holes, but I would have liked to have seen them get another bat or something. So I think just in terms of keeping up with the Dodgers, I don't think the Brewers did enough. So I guess I would say they would be the loser.
Yeah. Yeah. I went with the Brewers for my loser. Like you said, they got nice pieces. Dustin May's a steady arm. I mean,
Yeah,
he's not going to blow you away, but he's somewhat consistent. Romero's a good reliever. Also
yeah,
grabbed Bo Naylor, who's had moments. I don't think he's been that good this year. And then Antonio Sensatela, I think it's Taylor. Sensatela, the reliever from the Rockies, who's been sneaky good
yeah.
despite being pilfered,
Of course,
despite
yeah,
rotting away in Colorado. Um,
yeah,
oh, and Cody Hoyer, that was the reliever the Cubs got for Craig Kimbrell. Interesting. Anyways, no, my main issue with it's not the pieces, it's just like you said. Um, Everyone around them is kind of gearing up. I mean, the
yeah,
Dodgers you talked about, the Cubs we'll talk about made a lot of moves that made them a better team. And then, the Phillies got a rise. So, their main contenders in the NL all got better, I would say. And, the Brewers
yeah,
got better, but it's just like you said, it's just kind of that's it. Um, but that's also been their track record is
yeah. Exactly.
they never make a big move, which is probably why they always, stall out in the playoffs at some point. I mean, they're a regular season win machine, clearly.
Yeah,
I believe they're the best record right now. Um,
yeah. And I mean, I just think they're so effective at what they do, but if they just keep coming up short, at a certain point, there's going to be questions like, are you willing to make the big move? Because
right.
I mean, to be fair, they have the deepest farm system in baseball. They're very good
Hmm.
at developing players. They're very good at taking in players that, especially pitchers that look like failures in other organizations and making them look good.
Right.
So, I think they have the depth to where they can move them. I mean, and I don't think they're completely unwilling to. I mean, if you look at that trade they made with the Cardinals, I mean, a lot of their fans are up in arms that they gave up the pieces they did for, half a year of control of Dustin May and Jojo Romero. So
Hmm.
I don't think they're unwilling to move names, but they would have been the team where you'd like to see going after someone like Scooble, making that big name deal that
Right.
you think can really put them over the edge, and they just haven't been seeming willing to do that.
Yeah. For winner, yeah, Dodgers are definitely up there. Obviously you get the biggest piece at the deadline. Um, yeah, with like you said, without giving up the absolute farm for it.
Yeah.
Um, that's not bad. Cubs, we'll talk about in a bit. I
Hmm.
did unbiasedly, I did think they had a really good deadline.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, I think the Red Sox deserve a mention too.
Yeah,
Just getting
although
someone like Adley Rushman, even though they paid a lot for him.
they did. I
Uh,
mean, I that was really my only criticism, but I guess you really can't critique them for trying to actually go out and get players for helping them win now. But they definitely paid a pretty steep price.
yeah. All right, let's go through the rest of the teams. We'll see how far we get before the break, and then we'll take a break and knock out the rest. Arizona only made one move, which obviously has an impact on your
Yeah,
fan base, Lars Nootbaar. Um, I from the Arizona perspective, we could talk about what the Cardinals got later. Um, Great. I don't really know. Where are they right now in the standings?
they're tied with the Phillies.
They're second wild card. So probably would have liked to see him do a little bit more to secure that spot because, like you said, tied with the Phillies are only two ahead of San Diego for that last spot. And San Diego
Yeah,
made some decent moves, but what kind of year was I haven't really been following. I know he's been hurt a bit, but what kind of year
yeah.
was Nootbaar having?
So interesting. He's always been someone that um like all the metrics guys really love him because they think his advanced stats, like he's just primed for a breakout, and that really just hasn't happened.
Hmm.
Last season in the off season, he actually had a pretty serious surgery on both of his heels. I don't know if you remember, but it was the same
Hmm.
thing that Cespedes had
Oh, really?
that basically like ruined his career. So there was some questions how he'd come back. So he didn't actually come back until June.
Hmm.
And he's actually looked pretty healthy. The offensive production hasn't been overwhelming, but he's pretty much always going to be a 10 to 15% above league average guys if you're looking at weighted runs created plus. So that's pretty much what he's been. He's a decent defender. So I think that was a good move for Arizona. I mean, and for me particularly, I've always been pretty high on their team.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I
especially
remember for
in the off
preseason you said
season.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just think if you look up and down their lineup, they have a lot of really good hitters. I mean, Arenado's had a rebound year, so that's
Yep.
added to it. And they have that catcher that just came up, Gabriel Moreno, I think his name is,
Hmm.
and he's a really solid hitter, had a good year. And honestly, their pitching, they have a lot of good pitching too, and their bullpen's been much improved. So
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know that they had a huge holes. I think they would have liked to probably get
Uh-oh.
something other than Newt Bar. I know they were
Yeah.
also interested in Burleson from the Cardinals, and I think
Mm.
Newt Bar was just kind of what was available. So I think they made their team better, and they've been playing well lately. So I guess we're just
Yeah.
gonna have to see. But I guess 3 weeks ago they were not in wild card position. I think they were below 500. So they've really come on now. So I think they just kind of trust what they have already.
Yeah. They're always just such an
Yeah,
interesting team. You never really know what they're gonna do. But
exactly.
Athletics acquired a pitcher from the Phillies. Great. Sent Colby Thomas. Whatever.
Yeah.
The Braves made a lot of moves. Nothing. I don't know if anything was huge.
Who was the pitcher they got?
So they got Lane Thomas and pardon me, Bailey Falter from KC. Um,
Mhm.
Brent Suter, the relief pitcher from the Angels. I think he was having a decent year. Tyler
Malley, yeah,
Malley
from the Giants,
from the
yeah.
Giants. And then a reliever from the Red Sox and the once heir apparent to Buster Posey, Joey Bart from the White
Yeah.
Sox. So, man, what a freaking fall off Joey Bart has had.
Yeah.
He was the shit not that long ago. Anyways, um, I know I'm looking at, the site I'm getting the trades from also has rankings. They gave him C plus. Sounds about right. I
Yeah.
mean, nothing huge. I don't know what kind of year was Molly is
He's
having.
not having a very good year,
Yeah,
but I do think that
5.13 ERA.
yeah, I do think that move has some upside, but I would have
Hmm.
liked to have seen them get another starting pitcher. And I think going into Monday, that was kind of the expectation is they could be in the market for another one. But I guess they either that didn't materialize or they didn't really feel like they needed it. But I don't know that he's going to be enough. But there is some upside because he's a much better pitcher than his ERA would
Yeah, I
suggest.
mean, last year. Now, he hasn't been super reliable.
Yeah,
18 starts this year, 16 last year, and then a
yeah,
combined 8 between 23 and 24. But last year
hmm
in 86 innings, which isn't a ton for a starter,
yeah,
put up a 2.18 ERA. So yeah, like you said, some upside there.
yeah,
Um, but again, kind of like the Brewers, even though they're not in the position the Brewers are right now. Um, kind of needed a little bit more if they wanted to go toe to toe with the Dodgers or the Brewers, or
yeah,
now you throw the Cubs and Phillies in that group.
yeah, exactly.
That just didn't really seem like they did. So, um, they did. There was chatter they were really looking for DeGrom, but apparently he invoked his no trade clause, which was
Yeah.
interesting.
hmm
So yeah, maybe a little bit more. Baltimore traded away damn near everyone.
Yeah, that
Um,
was interesting.
Adley Rushman and Jake Rogers, both catchers to the White Sox, for, like you said, a very good haul, though.
Yeah.
Two starting pitching prospects, outfield prospect, catching prospect. Dean Kramer, starting pitcher, traded away outfielder Taylor Ward to Seattle, traded a relief pitcher Tyler Wells to Tampa, and then acquired a couple guys. What a what a weird couple of years it's been for Baltimore. I mean,
Yeah.
not really talking about any of the trades, but I mean, what was it like 2 or 3 years ago? They were a 100-win team.
Yeah. I think it was
I think it was
I don't
two
yeah, because
because go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think the first year they made a surprise run and then the
Mm.
next year they were like a 100 win team and then now they're gonna miss the playoffs 2 years in a row,
Yeah,
which
I was
is
gonna
kind
say
of
I
strange.
remember because last year was supposed to be, they were going to be the world beaters, and it just
Yeah.
never happened. And yeah, now you're trading Rushman, who was, kind of the cornerstone for a
Yeah.
while between between him and Henderson, who's still around.
Yeah.
And they
And they were
still have
listening in on Jackson Holiday
and
too,
Holidays
supposedly.
around, but yeah, like you said, there were reports they were listening to takes on him. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's organizational or what just happened, but um, kind of hitting the rebuild button again. Um, I mean, and it was a good haul for it. I mean, the
Yeah.
Ianson, the pitcher they got for Rushman, considered one of the better.
Witherspoon's also pretty good
Yeah,
too.
Iason's considered one of the top pitching like they got good prospects, but yeah, it's just as a Baltimore fan, you're probably looking around going, what the fuck happened? So,
Yeah.
um. Moving across the division to the team they traded with, Boston, kind of talked about them already. Got Rushman, also got Curtis Mead from the Nationals for Connolly early. That was before the deadline, but that was
That
a
was a head
pretty,
scratcher.
yeah, because early was pretty well regarded. Relief pitcher Eric Miller from San Fran, and then outfielder Eli White from the Braves. Um, yeah, they're talk about a turnaround of a season
Yeah.
for Boston. I mean, them, when we did one of our earlier season talks, like them, Phillies, and the Mets were just huge
Yeah.
disappointments. Not as much as the Phillies and Mets, but still. And now
Yeah.
they're 9 games over 500. They reeled off an insane win streak. What it hit like 13 or 14, I think.
Yeah. I think they were like 25-5 or something in the last month or something
Though
like
they're and
that.
they're on a 7 gamer again, and they're nine
Yeah.
and one in their last 10. They're in the second wild card spot, six ahead of the third place Rangers, and what are they? Still about
Got to be sneaking up on the Yankees.
So they are, let me switch over to divisional. A game back of the Yankees, and then
Yeah,
they're 5.5 back at Tampa. So, yeah, pretty clear they're going for it.
yeah,
I mean, the rotation's good, the bullpen, bullpen's good. The bats, which we always thought were going to be the issue, kind of coming alive. We'll see if they can
yeah,
maintain this pace, but yeah, not good turnaround for them, and you pick up one of the better catchers in the game. So,
yeah, exactly.
the Reds. Nothing, man.
Yeah,
Trading Nathaniel Lowe to Cleveland. What a brain dead move. Because I was actually watching a video about it this morning. Um, I think they have 6 expiring contracts that they just didn't move.
yeah. Is Stevenson one of those that they didn't move, or were they just
Yep,
discussing? Because
Stevenson and it must have been their last game before the deadline. Stevenson was crying like in the post game interview
yeah, he kind of
because
assumed.
he knew he thought he knew that he was gone.
Yeah,
So Stevenson, who for anyone looking for a catcher would have probably been a decent return. Brady Singer, Brock Burke,
yeah,
Suarez, Emilio Pagan, Pierre, like those guys could get decent returns. Suarez, somebody needs a bat, Stevenson, a catcher, Singer, a starter, like, and they just
yeah,
did jack shit. So they
yeah.
needed to pick a
And
direction.
honestly,
Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, especially Stevenson, because there was actually a pretty big market for catchers.
Hmm.
And, specifically, I kind of was thinking maybe the Yankees would go after him because they really needed a right-handed hitting catcher.
Right.
And then you see their division opponents, the Red Sox go get a catcher, the Rays got a catcher, and they didn't do anything. So that was
Hmm.
kind of surprising. They're sticking with Austin Wells, who's hitting like 160 this year.
Yeah.
So I really thought he'd be moved. I think the Reds, yeah, you're exactly right. Like, what are they doing?
Yeah, they needed to pick a direction. I mean, they're 3 under 500, 5 back of a wild card spot. So it's not impossible. They'd have to jump over at this point Philly, San Diego, Miami, the Cardinals, and the Pirates, who I don't think they're jumping over all those teams.
No, and their bullpen is horrible.
And so yeah, they needed to sell and get what they could because it's a lost
Yeah,
season, or if they thought they could do it, they would need to buy, which they didn't. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's just kind of a weird we're gonna stand pat even though we're in,
yeah,
they're in no man's land right now. So
yeah,
I don't know, classic Reds. Next up, we're if you haven't picked up, we're going in alphabetical order by city.
yeah,
The Cubs. Um, Revamped their pitching core. Kevin Gossman from the Blue Jays, Clay Holmes, and outfielder Tyrone Taylor from the Mets, Braxton Garrett from the Marlins, and then Ryan Zephyr. I've heard Zephyr and Zephyr John. I don't know. Zephyr. We're gonna go with that. From the Angels, and then they DFA'd and then eventually traded Jameson Taillon to Toronto for the
yeah,
all-time classic cash considerations or player to be named later.
yeah,
Um, yeah, for a deadline that did not involve a big fish, that's about
yeah.
as good as you can get, I think.
I would agree.
They didn't get Skubal. No one got Joe Ryan, who I thought they would really hone in on, as kind
Yeah,
of the next best option to Skubal, and he's under control. So he might have actually been pricier, I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
Um, but still, like all these guys, like besides Braxton Garrett, who's been in the minor leagues, um, those guys are going to contribute. Kevin Gossman's not having a great season surface level, but his underlying numbers are pretty good, and he's a proven postseason guy. Clay Holmes is kind of a do-it-all pitcher. He can start.
mhm,
He's been a good starter. He's been a good reliever. Tyrone Taylor's a good fourth outfield option, and then Zephyr was quietly a very good reliever, who's one of the
yeah,
better strikeout guys in the league. Um, so yeah, they really, and the more I thought, like when the deadline passed, I was kind of like, good deadline. I got some good guys. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that was a really solid deadline.
yeah. I would agree.
Those guys are all gonna help. And
Yeah,
I still don't know, and we can end with this later on in the episode. I don't know if they're still, even though this past series might say otherwise. I still don't know if they're ready for the Dodgers in a 5 or 7 game series,
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
but they've definitely, without giving up the farm, even though they gave up decent pieces, Jefferson Rojas is one of their better prospects, and Moises Ballesteros as
yeah,
well. But without really giving up a lot, they made themselves a lot better. So, and the other piece, and I don't want to go on too long about them. The other piece is just if these guys who are injured start coming back, it's going to be even better. You know,
yeah. That's true.
they get
Cabrera.
one they get Cabrera. Cabrera will be back. Hopefully, he looks better than he did before he went down because he did not look good this year. Um, they get one of Ben Brown or Justin Steele back before the postseason. Like you can push Holmes to the bullpen. He's been a good bullpen guy. So, um, yeah, if they start get Daniel Palencia, their closer's been injured. That if he comes back, you can move Zephyr to the eighth inning spot. That's a pretty killer 1-2 to end the game. So if they don't get healthy, I think they're still a really good team. If they get healthy, I think they're going to be a really good team. So, yeah, we'll see. Good deadline though.
Yeah, I'd agree. I just think for me, my thing with the Cubs is always going to be, are you willing to go get the big name? I mean, you could say was it, but I mean, we saw what the package was for Scooble. Like
It wasn't, yeah,
and honestly, I mean, not to go off on a mini tangent, but it's like the people using the Dodgers trading for Scooble as an example of why the league's unfair. That's not the case to me
no,
because he was that there were plenty of teams that could have offered a much better package if
yeah.
they wanted to, and they just didn't.
I I think from the Cubs' perspective, and someone made this point before the deadline, before any moves happened, was I don't know, this was probably a week or two ago. They had like a 95% chance to hit the postseason and like a 3% chance to win the World Series. So the question you would ask is, what would getting Scooball really do? I mean, obviously it would make you better. There's no doubt about that.
I mean,
But
he'd be your game one starter, and
he'd be
I'd
your
feel
game
much
one.
better
Oh
about
no,
their
he would
ability to
they'd
to
be
beat the team like a Dodgers.
they'd be much better. I'm not doubting that, but it's you know, would getting him that 3% World Series chance, would it go up that much to warrant basically trading a lot? At what the time we thought was a lot, didn't end up being a lot, but
Yeah,
trading a lot away for a guy who they could, but they're not going to sign in the offseason. I mean, that's, you're right. That is the frustrating thing about the Cubs is they have the money, they just don't spend it all the time. Um, and so from
yeah,
that perspective, yes, it would have been nice to get him, but at the same time, I don't think just getting one starter who's very, very good, but getting one starter was going to help him that much to warrant, giving a lot away when he's probably going to walk in 6 months. Um,
yeah. I know that that's a tough sell. It's just like a team like them, like that. They have a really good offense. I mean, to me, I don't really trust their pitching in the playoffs. And if you put someone like Scooble in their rotation,
yeah,
especially against a team like the Dodgers with a lot of left-handed hitters, like that
right.
that could really be, something. And because if you think about the Dodgers, like them getting Scooble was as much to stop the other teams from getting
Yeah.
him than anything else. Like I I just think that was,
I,
and
I
it's not just to pick on the Cubs because
no,
I'd
no,
probably pick
no.
on the Brewers more so for not
I think, well, I was just gonna say,
getting him. But
I think
I just think
if
that's kind of, at a certain point, you have to be willing to pay a price.
Yeah, I think if they were in the Brewer spot of clearly on their way to a first round bye, which they're not,
Yeah.
um, I would be more upset that they didn't because now they will have to go through a 3 game wild card series, which, I like their
Hmm.
chances in that against who at this point will be
Either the Phillies or
Arizona.
the D-backs.
Arizona's ahead of the Phillies right now. So I like their chances in that, but still you run the risk of, yeah, you give up a lot for Screwball and then 3 games, God knows what happens. You lose two, you're done.
Yeah.
And then you're like, so we traded all that for a guy we lost in the wild card round. So if they had a first round bye, I'd be a little bit more upset. But for where they are currently, which I'm not, they're having a good year now, but I'm not us. They should be with the talent they have, they should be atop the division. I think that's not too unfair to say. Um, I don't know. For where they're at right now, I'm not so pissed that they didn't get him, and I think that they still made the best out of it. I think I'm more pissed they didn't get like a Joe Ryan. I think that would have been a better move, honestly, just because of the control they would have under over him. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, it didn't really seem to hinder them this past series, which we can bring up later.
Yeah.
So jump into the South Side, the White Sox. Luis Castillo, the big prize from Seattle. Also got Brenton Doyle from the Rockies, very good defender. Relief pitcher from
Yeah.
the Mets, and then they traded Joey Bart. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Good for them, honestly.
yeah.
I'm glad they're kind of sort of going for it.
I mean, because they somehow have, well, just because of the standings, they are the second seed right now
Yeah.
in the AL. The Yankees and Red Sox have better records, but obviously they're stuck in the wild card. So,
Yeah.
but it was also kind of a cautious. I'm glad they didn't go all in this deadline
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
as good a year as they're having by their metrics and just in general, they're still not there yet. Like they're
Yeah.
not, maybe they sneak a postseason series win, but they're not World Series contenders yet.
Yeah.
So, you improved, you secured your playoff spot most likely, and at the same time you didn't, ruin the rebuild to do so. So, um, kind of a nice. I think that was a very smart deadline from their point of view.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if they have the Pope on their side or what, but they just really
Yeah,
have had
well,
a surprising year. And I mean, if you play the expectations game, I mean, they were talking about when they signed Murakami. Oh, I mean, this could be a really good signing because if he proves himself, we'll be able to get a lot for him.
right.
Like, I don't think they were thinking they were going to be buyers, but that's just how the years turned out. And now
Yeah,
they have a decent chance to make the playoffs.
yeah. It's between the Pope and the fact that their all-star this year, Tristan Peters, um, Saluki, former Saluki.
Yeah.
So, anyways, staying in the AL Central, we got a couple. We can probably knock out a few more teams before this break.
Yeah.
Cleveland had a nice little deadline. Foster Griffin, who was an all-star from the Nationals, and then Joe Adell, who's got some pop from the
Yep.
Angels. Also got Nathaniel Lowe from the Reds, and relief pitcher. That really mean much. Craig Yoho, nice name, and Blake Perkins
Hmm.
from the Brewers. Um, yeah, kind of seems a very Cleveland deadline. I mean,
Yeah.
didn't move the world to get any one guy, but just kind of shored up because where are they? They are
Second or third.
tied for the last wild card spot with the Rangers. I guess the Rangers have the tiebreaker. I mean, they're one game under because the AL is just god awful. But they're only
Yeah.
three back of the White Sox, and a young team like the White Sox, you never know if they're going to fall off. So, the Guardians
Yeah, exactly.
kind of set themselves up. Um, the Rockies, whatever. Brenton Doyle to the White Sox, Victor Vatnik to the Marlins, and then
Didn't trade
Sensatella.
Goodman.
Didn't trade Goodman, which how old is?
I want to say he's 26.
So he could be around. Yeah, that one was a
Yeah.
little. I
I
mean,
mean,
I think
they certainly didn't have to. I
they
just,
didn't have
that
to,
was in
but it
conversations.
was such a catcher's market as we talked about with Stevenson. They
Yeah.
could have gotten a haul for him. I mean, the
Like
guy
the Yankees.
the guy's got a 30 plus homers already.
Yeah.
So great. Um, cool. It probably could have sold off a bit more, but oh well.
Mhm.
The Tigers, obviously the big one. They traded away Skubal, traded away Casey Mize, another to the Padres. Nice move for the Padres.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where Detroit goes from here now, because did they have 100 wins last year, or am I making that up? I don't
Um,
think, no, I don't think they did.
Maybe it was 2 years ago, but I mean, they've been a solid team for a couple
Yeah.
years.
Um,
Yeah, I just don't. I didn't really look much into the return they got from the Padres, but the Padres do not have a very strong system, so I'd be shocked if they got anything that
trying to see if they say.
meaningful. And, if you look at the return they got from the Dodgers, I mean, Hope is probably going to be, a solid outfield. They're going to have a good outfield here in a couple of years, but it's like, the pitcher they got, River Ryan,
Hmm.
I don't think a 27-year-old can be considered a top prospect anymore. Like he's been in the minors for so many years. I don't really care what his stuff is. Like I don't know that that deal was the best they could have gotten. So that was a little bit strange to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, they still have some good pieces. I don't really know exactly what the plan is for the next couple years. They obviously have a couple of really good young players, but outside of that, they're gonna have to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. And I mean, and to be fair, they're only a game and a half back of the wild card.
Yeah.
And they're, where are they in the division? Four and a half back. So like both are
Hmm.
in play. Um, I mean, Scooball they traded not because they're not, well, they aren't that competitive this year. I mean, they're below 500, but they're competitive within the AL.
Yeah,
They traded him because of the contract coming up.
exactly.
So, um, yeah, I'm just so interested to see where they go from here. Because do they tear it down? I mean, they shouldn't tear it all down again, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, like we said, they're just a year removed from being a very competitive team. So. All right, Houston Astros only made one move. They got Dalton Varsho from the Blue Jays for Spencer Arrighetti, who had a really good start to his career and then kind of blew up the last couple months, but he's also under control until 30, so who knows? Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're 2 games above 500. They're a game and a half ahead of the Rangers in the AL West, which is if anyone plays decent, they're going to win the AL West.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is Dalton Varsho really enough? Probably not, but
No, but I mean, I mean, they did what they had to do. They had to fix a glaring hole there. I think their outfield OPS is the lowest in baseball, handed hitting outfielders. So, that, I guess to a certain degree, they did what they needed to do.
yeah,
But that division just been so volatile. Like, a week ago they weren't in first place, but they just rattled off a good week and now all of a sudden they're in first place.
right,
And another thing that's important for them is, their owner, Crane, never wants to sell. He wants to be competitive every year. So even though they really don't have much of a farm system to work with, they're going to make moves to buy if at all possible. And so, I think they at least kind of fixed the one glaring need they had. And so now we'll see if that helps them get into the playoffs.
right. All right. Well, let's take a quick break because I gotta really use the bathroom. And then when we come back, we'll get through the rest of the league. And welcome back. Bubba and I returned from our break as we continue rolling through the MLB deadline, moving in alphabetical order. That leaves us at the Kansas City Royals. Traded away Lane Thomas and Bailey Falter to the Braves, Chris Bubich to the Dodgers, and Nolan Hoffman, or acquired Nolan Hoffman, pardon me, from the Phillies. Um, cool. I don't.
Yeah, the only thing I was surprised about was trading Bubic because they had said they weren't going to trade him or Waka, and then they ended up trading him kind of in the last hour or two to the Dodgers, which why did the Dodgers need to do that? I don't know, but
Because why not?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, just such a disappointing year. They were supposed, they've been on the up and up kind of, and now they're sitting almost 20 games under 500. And if you're 12 games out in the AL Central, something's really wrong
yeah,
because I think you and I could be less than that playing in the AL Central this year. So, yeah, I don't know much to say. I hopefully some of those guys they got, even though they didn't really sell anyone huge off. I mean, Bubic
no,
is
yeah.
solid, but um, still. Ugh. Anyways, moving on, we go to the Angels, who, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bubba, but did John Mozeliak actually initiate a rebuild?
He did, and he did it with some intensity.
Holy shit, I never thought I'd see
Yeah,
the day.
yeah, very active.
The epitome of we're not rebuilding has officially thrown in the towel with the Angels, which is good. They need to.
They needed to. Yeah,
They've been riding this line of we're not fully rebuilding for so long, and they've been bad for so long. But Ryan Zefferson out the door for Moises Ballesteros, who, if he can look anything like he did at the start of this year for the Cubs, really nice hitter. Jose Soriano, who was kind of one of the surprises of the season, went to the
Yeah.
Blue Jays. They got a decent haul for him. Joe Adell for a catching prospect. Logan O'Hop and Chase Silseth, that's a name. Chase Silseth, Jesus, to the Rangers. Brent Suter to the Braves and Kirby Yates to the Pirates. I don't know who's
Yeah.
playing for him the rest of the year, but
They kept Detmers and Trout. Other than that,
yeah, Detmers and Trout, and Zach Neto,
yeah,
who would have probably gotten a decent haul. So, but hey, you know, at least Mo's finally doing it with a team. This is what they've needed to do for a while, and great. Still can't get off that freaking
yeah,
what's it? Who is he? Rendon contract, but yeah,
yeah.
that's never
Yeah,
happening.
honestly, I thought he did a pretty good job and they got a pretty decent return, especially for Soriano. I think they got the Blue Jays top prospect. I think it was like Arjun Namala or
Arjun
something like
Namala,
that.
yeah, shortstop.
Um, so honestly, they did a pretty good job. I guess they probably could have gotten a few more deals, but I mean, man, they really were busy.
Right. The Dodgers, already talked about them. Obviously got the prize with the deadline and Tarek Skubal, also Chris Bubich from the Royals, and then catcher Hunter Fiducia, maybe, and a prospect for the Rays. Apparently, I didn't realize this until the Cubs just played them. Apparently, they're down bad at catcher right now.
Yeah,
What's his name? Everyone's favorite catcher, rushing.
Dalton Varsing. Yeah,
Uh, Apparently, he has what Dave Roberts said an almost torn UCL. I don't
yeah.
know what that means, but that doesn't sound great. Um, and we could talk about him a bit more at the end. I kind of want to go over World Series odds. Yeah, they did what they were all. They didn't need to do anything. They'd still probably be the favorite. They go out, they get another ace, to join their three other aces on the roster, basically. Um, yeah, we could talk
Yeah.
about their future in a bit more for the season, but great way to go,
I will just
Dodger.
say real quick, I do think it's funny if you look at their like rotation, they could have like two and a half rotations of legitimate starters.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I
Well,
just think it's kind of funny.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be like, who the hell do you play in a playoff series? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Scuball, obviously uh Tiyashimoto, right?
Yakamoto or
Y
Yamamoto,
Yamamoto, not Yasha.
Snell,
Yeah, Yamamoto, Snell, Otani if he actually pitches.
maybe they have
Rebel
Glass now.
Rebelski, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Robleski. Yeah.
Who the Cubs saw, has been pretty bad the last two games actually, but
No, I mean, he's like their six basically.
he's having a good season otherwise. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just Jesus. Again, we'll talk about them more towards the end. The Marlins, uh, sure,
Weird. I mean,
yeah.
they traded away some people and then they traded for some people.
Yeah,
I
they
thought that was a little strange.
traded
Liam
away
Hicks.
Liam Hicks for prospects, traded away Braxton Garrett to the Cubs for prospects, traded away a relief pitcher, Backar to the
Yeah.
Pirates for uh Brandon Bedois and then some prospects, and then acquired Victor Vodnik from the Rockies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't, because they started the year pretty bad. They had a huge run,
Yeah.
and now they're back to being
That run is over.
they're okay. I mean, they're 6-4 in their last 10, so they're fine.
No,
Um,
but before that 10, they had lost a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and they're 3 games out of a wild card.
Mhm.
So, and I don't, they're in one of those positions. I don't really know what else you do. I mean, they don't have a
Yeah.
ton of things they could have sold off. I always forget his name. They have that one reliever who's having a really good year. Um, Probably could have traded off, Alcantara, but
Yeah, but apparently he was off limits. They weren't even discussing him.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what they said.
Max Meyer, they probably could have gotten a bit for Pete Fairbanks, Anthony Bender is who I was thinking of, even though he's hurt right now.
Yeah.
He's having a really nice year. So probably could have done more, but obviously they want to try and sneak in the playoffs, after they almost did last year. So they're clearly committing to, uh they're on the, they're on the up and
Yeah.
up. So, next up, the Brewers, already talked about them. Not really any issues with their pieces, but Kind of wish they did more for where they're at. The Twins, I don't have a ton to say other than they might have missed the boat selling Ryan.
No,
Um,
but I will just say that they made an interesting decision, and I mean, I can't really fault them for, I mean, that division is so for the taking this year. Like,
hmm
they wanted them, they were discussed as sellers and they didn't end up doing, I mean, they had a lot of pieces they could have traded. And if you would
Yeah.
have asked a month ago, you probably said they would have, because it's not just Ryan. They have a couple pitchers who could be for the taking. And, I don't know that they really did enough to make themselves better, but I can't blame them for not selling, if they have a chance to win the division.
Yeah, they're four out of the division. Again, they're four out of the White Sox, who I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they fall off a bit just because of how young they
Yeah.
are. They do have to jump the Guardians, who are always consistent towards the end of the year, but they're only a game back of the wild card.
Mhm.
So, um, yeah, I kind of I thought I wouldn't have mind seeing them sell off a bit more. Because even if they get in the playoffs, like congrats, here's the
Yeah.
Yankees, have fun. Um, but if they think they should go for it, this is an okay deadline. The Mets, another team who I don't know who the hell they're gonna play for the rest of the year. Freddie Peralta went to the Tampa Bay Rays, who are probably going to turn him into a Cy Young candidate again.
Yeah.
Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor went to the Cubs, Luke Weaver to the Pirates, Brooks O'Reilly to the Phillies, and Huascar Brazoban to the
Yeah.
White Sox. So, um, from what I've read, they didn't really acquire any killer prospects. Besides, you could probably
The
throw.
Cubs won.
I say you could probably say Rojas is.
Yeah.
But other than that, I guess they're just kind of getting a bunch of them and seeing what happens.
Yeah, I think that's probably the plan. I mean, for them, what I would expect them to do in the off season is use that prospect, capital they accumulated and try and use those to make some trades. Because we know the Mets are not going to be sellers, for multiple years. They're not rebuilding. They have enough players to where, I mean, and I will say to be fair to the Mets, like if you would have played this season 100 times with the roster they had, this is probably the worst outcome you could have
Yeah,
imagined. So I do think it's been a little bit of, sometimes that sort of happens. You have just a really bad year. So I think they'll be better next year, and they probably don't have to do a whole lot other than figuring out the pitching. But I mean, to be fair, look, I mean, they made a huge trade for Peralta in the offseason, and that didn't work out. And hopefully, we'll talk about him on the Rays because I do think he's an interesting piece. But it's like all the stuff they did, it just didn't work out, and so you can't fault them for not trying.
yeah, yeah. I like you said, I don't know if they should have sold off everything because they still obviously have quite a few pieces, but you know, if this happens again next year, maybe that's when you start looking at your Lindors,
Yeah,
Bichette, but well,
I'd have a hard time imagining that happens again. But we'll
well,
see.
never know with the Mets. The other side of New York, the Yankees get Luis Garcia Jr. from the Nats, get Heliot Ramos from the Giants, and then traded Camille Duvall to the Pirates. I didn't even realize Duvall was on the Yankees.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Brewers, even though I like it a little bit more. You kind of wish they did more. We've already talked enough about their catching problems.
Yeah, that was the biggest shock that they didn't do anything there.
But there's 7 games ahead of the third wild card spot. They are 4.5 back of the Rays, so it's doable. Not super likely, but it's doable. Um, but again, and the AL's so up in the air. Like, if you said that the Yankees are still the AL favorite, I wouldn't scoff.
Yeah,
Like I could see it, but when you get against, is that enough to compete against the Dodgers if you get there? Or
yeah,
I don't know. I still don't. The rotation's killer, which helps,
yeah.
but
But,
uh,
I'll also be fair because we just got done playing them and we took 2 out of 3 after the deadline. Like their lineup right now, they don't have Judge,
yeah,
Bellinger, or Stanton. Like,
right.
that's pretty much their team offensively. So and now they have Rice who has 31 homers. They add Luis Garcia who has 24. So I think they're going to be fine. They just need to get their players back. I can understand the frustration of, their fans, but really the catching, that was the only thing that they probably should have done that they didn't. And
Yeah.
because kind of the big names were off the board, there wasn't much they could do because the only other ones that they were either going to have to get someone like Stevenson, who's like not that good,
Hmm.
or they it doesn't really seem like Hunter Goodman on the Rockies was available. I know they also were in discussions or trying to be in discussions with the Twins about Ryan Jeffers. He wasn't
Hmm.
available. They were kind of looking into Ivan Herrera on the Cardinals, but I don't think he was that available. And a lot of teams don't really consider him a full-time catcher anyway. So I just think there wasn't really a great move for them at catcher. So I understand Cashman's going to take some heat, but I think he just trusts what he already has built there, and I think they'll be fine as long as they get those three back.
Yeah. The Phillies get Luis Arraez and Caleb Killian from the Giants. Killian, fun fact, one of the pieces the Cubs traded for Chris Bryant. Uh,
Hmm.
Acquired Brooks Raley from the Mets, Colton Thomas from the A's, and then traded Nolan Hoffman to KC for
Hmm.
Emmanuel Colin. So, um, the Arise one's really interesting, I think, because from a batting offensive perspective, great. Like the guy's one of the best contact hitters in the league. Um, you could go into arguments about how valuable is that, just with the type of contact, but the guy's perennially a 300 hitter, which is always nice to have. I think not that it hurts him overall, but the defensive reshuffling they're gonna have to do now because of him, uh, I think could be problematic.
It could be, but I'm not fully sold on it. Like Harper, I think is still athletic enough to play the outfield. I mean, Bohm at third base is a horrible third baseman anyway, so now
Yeah,
you're getting him off of third base. And I mean, the reason I really like that move for the Phillies is because that is really their weakness is getting on base and hitting for average. I mean, I think if I was looking at the numbers, I had a hard time believing this, but it's true. I mean, Arias has only struck out 21 times this year. Schwarber
yeah.
strikes out more than that in a month.
Oh yeah.
So, I do think it is fixing a sort of a
No,
weakness.
yeah.
The only thing I'll say on the Phillies is I think they probably should have gotten a starter, and they didn't really do that. Um, I think their fan base would agree they needed a starter. I think they were a little bit disappointed because I don't remember if it was the day before or the day of the deadline. They called up Andrew Painter, who's one of their top prospects, and their fans were like, "All right, well, Dombrowski is just going to say this is the move we made at the deadline."
Right.
I think they needed another starter if they really wanted to compete. But we'll see. Obviously, they at least did something to make them better.
Yeah, I think the starter thing though will be mitigated in the playoffs, which I
Yeah,
say they're gonna make, but also they are, you know,
it's not guaranteed.
they're in the last wild card spot, only 2 games ahead of Pittsburgh. Um, but if they make the playoffs, like you can get by with a three man, and their three man right now is Sanchez, Wheeler, and Luzardo.
Yeah.
Like you don't get much better than that for a three-man rotation. But if they think they needed another starter just to get to the playoffs, and obviously they didn't really address that. I don't know. I think that defensive thing might come back because I mean, defense is one of those things that gets magnified in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah.
And, Arise isn't a great defender. I
No.
don't I don't think I'm as a high on Harper in the outfield as you are. And, if they don't fix their on-base problem, if Arise isn't the fix-all,
Yeah.
then that's gonna hurt too. So I don't know. I mean I like the move overall. I think he obviously makes their lineup a lot better, but I think they still have a lot of paths to
Okay.
a
I will
failure.
say to be fair on Arias's defense is he's gotten a lot better this year, and most people attribute that to him working with Ron Washington, who I didn't even know
Yeah,
but is on the Giants now. So I
yeah,
saw some people saying, the Phillies should have traded for Arias and Ron Washington so he could,
right.
kind of continue working his magic on him because his second base defense has been a lot better this year. Historically, it's been a pretty big weakness.
Yeah. Staying in state, going to Pittsburgh. Luke Weaver from the Giants, Camille Duvall from the Yankees, Lake Backar, I don't know, from the Marlins, Kirby Yates from the A's and Angels, and then traded Hunter Stratton. Um, addressed the bullpen a lot, which is
Yeah.
big for them. I mean, that is of their pitching half of the game, it is the weaker part by far. I mean,
Yeah.
their starters are solid. Um, Even though I don't think they've been as solid as you may have thought
No,
going into
yeah.
the year, but still they're solid. Um, so I don't know. I thought it was a decent, it's a smart deadline for them. I don't,
Yeah, I think it was nice to see him buying, which is interesting because, I don't know that you'd look at their team and be like, well, do we really think they're gonna like what are their actual chances of even getting in a wild card? I don't know. But I mean, at least they gave themselves a chance,
yeah,
which is all you can really do. I think it was the right time to do it though. Previously that would not be what they do. They would sell off, but I think it was honestly the right thing to do. At least give them a chance. We'll see if they're able to. They are going to have to raise their level if they're going to get in the playoffs. I mean, they've been a little bit better of late, but you can't just keep kind of, you know, f- going up and down and make the playoffs.
yeah. San Diego, AJ Preller doing AJ Preller things will never sell. Continue to buy. Casey
Yeah.
Mize and Gage Workman from the Tigers, Robbie Ray from the Giants, and Hunter Stratton from the Pirates. San Diego is 2 games behind Philly right now for that last wild card spot. Obviously they have no chance of winning the division. Cool. Look, I know that's probably from the pieces they like that's a good deadline. I think from the
Yeah.
piece like Mize and Ray are decent starters or can be decent starters. Like that's not bad. I kind of wonder, and I don't think it'll happen under Preller, but how long do they just keep going with this? Like all in, all in,
Yeah.
all in, because it hasn't worked so far, obviously. This year it really hasn't worked because they're not even get really locked into a wild card spot. So I
No. Um, Yeah, the only thing you can say for them is, they finally started to hit a little bit, and you knew it was going to have to at some point. I mean, they just have really good players. Like, surely they weren't going to go the whole year without it. But I mean, you're right. At this point, they have no farm system at all to work from. So it's like they have what they have. It's unless you're signing someone, it's hard to go out and get. I mean, I was a little bit surprised. I mean, obviously they made the deal for Robbie Ray. The Casey Mize deal, that was like in the last 5 minutes. That was
yeah.
really at the buzzer. So that was a good move. So honestly, I'm kind of curious to see how it goes for them because if there's any team right now kind of on the outside looking in, they would be the team that I think could make a run and maybe get into the playoffs. So we'll just have to see, but they're going to have to keep hitting at the level they've kind of done at the last month. But they've just now finally started to play pretty consistent. So we'll see how it goes. But they're playing the Diamondbacks um, this week, and it hasn't been a great series thus far. I think the last game's tonight. So I know they lost last night pretty big. So we'll see how it goes tonight. But that was, a chance to make up some ground on a team. That's the team they probably need to catch if they're going to get in.
Staying in the division, the Giants, wisely selling some pieces off.
Yeah.
Did get Marcelo Mayer from the Red Sox, which I think is a nice little buy low candidate
Yeah,
because
I agree.
the guy was once touted.
Yeah.
Traded Molly to the Braves, traded a Rising Killing to the Phillies, and then Robbie Ray to the Padres. Yeah, I think that's a good recognition of clearly they are not what they thought they should have been this
Yeah.
year. I mean, they're almost 20 games under 500.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that bad, but you're 13 games out, so yeah, sell some of those pieces away. Um,
Hmm.
See what you get for them, and if things are better next year, great. If not, maybe that's when you sell off those really big name guys
Yeah.
like Chapman. So or
I
Webb.
just think it's tough because I mean everything has gone wrong for Posey. Like everything around the organization this year has just not worked out. So I think you're right. It was best to just kind of start over a little bit and
Yeah.
see how it goes. But I do think they are still going to have to really think about some things because the top players they do have, it's like Devers. I don't really love that contract for him. He
Yeah,
hasn't lived up to it. So it's like, I think they need to think some things over.
right. All right. Moving up the coast to the Seattle Mariners, who were a win away from the World Series last year. Got Ward from Baltimore, and then traded away Luis Castillo. I I don't really know what to make of that completely. Ward like they needed an they needed a bat, a righty bat. Ward
Yeah.
is a solid one. Um, and Castillo, I mean, kind of an overabundance. Like they didn't really need him.
Yeah, they didn't really need him.
They have the
And
starters.
he hasn't been very good either. So it's not like they really hurt their team by selling him.
Um, what are they? They're a game out of the wild card, and then um, 2.5 out of the division. So they're still
Yeah.
very much in it. Kind of again a disappointing year after how good they were last year, and like I said, a win away from the World Series. But
Yeah. I mean, it,
um,
it does make sense though. Cal Raleigh's had a bad year. Brendan Donovan was out 2 months. They just got him back like in the last day or so.
yeah,
So, I still think with the team they have on paper, they have to look at the teams in their division and be like, how the fuck are we not winning this division
yeah,
right now?
we can still do
So
it.
I still kind of like them to win. But yeah, I mean, it was strange because, there was a couple rumors like, well, all the teams in the market wanted a right-handed bat, so they were like, maybe we offer up Randy Arozarena, and
Hmm.
then you're like, what are you doing? Why are you selling? And then they end up getting a right-handed bat themselves. I thought it was an interesting deadline. I don't think they really knew what they wanted to do, set in stone.
Right. Now to your St. Louis Cardinals traded away Newt Bar to Arizona, traded Dustin May and Jojo Romero to the Brewers, and then acquired Caleb Ferguson from the Reds. Um, I don't know. What do you got to say about that?
Yeah, I think it was pretty standard. They traded two of their three expiring contract deals in May and Romero. They didn't trade Ryan Stanek, but I don't think there was much of a market for that anyway. Newt Bar only had a year and a half left, and the main reason they traded him was one of their top prospects, Josh Baez, who I believe is leading AAA in home runs, is knocking on the door. So I'd expect him to come up in the next couple weeks once we get a little more into August. Now there's room for him to play. I think it was a smart move. I think Heim Bloom definitely, won the deals that he made, especially that Brewers deal. We feel pretty good about. So for them, it's really going to be about continuing to bring up some of their prospects that are ready. I think they have a
Totally.
pretty solid core. I think it's just going to come down to they really need to sign somebody like a top of the line starter, I think is really what they need. And maybe they need either a third baseman or a center fielder. So that they need to sign or trade for somebody in the offseason, but they're not that many pieces away from being pretty good. Because if you look at their rotation, it's top 10 in baseball without really any big names. Their four core guys of Weatherholt, Burleson, Walker, and Herrera are all pretty solid players. It's just really the bottom five of their lineup is pretty bad right now. So that's really what they need to get figured out, especially at a couple positions. Most notably, third base and center field are pretty weak.
Yeah, from my point of view, like I thought it was a smart deadline. Like you said, I mean, they're only 4 game of a what? They're 4 games back of a wild card. Um, they only have 2 teams ahead of them, but it's kind of that position of even if they make the playoffs, like what are they really going to do? So,
Yeah,
like you said, get what you can for some of those expiring contracts and just keep looking towards the future, rather than either stay put and let those guys walk or stupidly buy for whatever reason.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
no, I thought it was smart. Speaking of smart, maybe one of the smartest teams in baseball, Tampa Bay Rays, get Freddie
yeah,
Peralta from the Mets, get Liam Hicks from the Marlins, and Tyler Wells from Baltimore. Um, Seems like what the Brewers should have done, kind of a similar,
yeah,
good team, but very small market, not a lot of resources, and yet they made some really savvy moves.
yeah. I really like what they did.
I think if there is one team who could kind of fix whatever's going on with Peralta this year, other than maybe I kind of wanted the Cubs to get him just because I think Craig Counsell and that defense would have helped him. But
Yeah.
if it wasn't them, it's going to be the Rays because of just how smart they are as a team. Brewers probably could have done it too. Liam Hicks, nice little pickup. Tyler Wells will help out the bullpen. Like, yeah, this is they, you know, the I think the fear with them was always, are they going to come back down to earth a little bit? I mean, just because
Yeah.
of how good they've been this year. They're 21 games over 500, but I think all these additions kind of shores up some of those concerns.
Yeah. I really like the Hicks one and I really like the Peralta one too. I mean, I think obviously he's had a rough year, but that can be mostly. I saw a really interesting segment the other day on MLB Network, and they were talking about can the Rays, fix him in season, which admittedly is difficult to do in season. But his biggest really change this year has been that with the changeup.
Hmm.
It's just kind of gone downhill, and the Rays organization is kind of the best at, in that regard with their changeups. So that's a really interesting, fit. And I think if any team can fix his changeup on the fly and be the Rays. So I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. But that was a really savvy move by them. You're right. So honestly, other than the Dodgers acquiring Scooble, I think they might have all around had the best, most complete deadline.
Uh, Three more teams ago. Rangers acquired Logan O'Hop and Chase Silseth from the Angels, and then traded away Josh Smith and Josh Steffen to the Blue Jays. Oh, run out of time. Um, I, I don't know. I mean, kind of like I said with the Twins, like they're still very much in contention for a playoff spot, a game and a half back of the division, and they are in or tied for the final wild card spot. So like
Yeah,
they're right there, but at the same time you got to go, all right, if you make the playoffs, what are you really going to do?
yeah.
Um I don't know who else you trade off. I know there was a lot of chatter about the Grom to the Braves. Obviously that did not happen. So
I mean, they
kind
basically said they were listening on everyone, which
yeah,
was, strange because earlier in the week, they traded for Ohapi
right.
and then they get swept by the Astros and then all of a sudden they're doing a fire sale. Obviously it didn't come to that, but that was a very strange couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah, just kind of passive for you know, a team who's they can pick kind of like the Red, not as bad as the Reds, but kind of like the Reds, they very clearly needed to either go all in or just back out and start
Yeah.
retooling, and they didn't really do other either. So,
Yeah.
all right, the Blue Jays, they had a very, I thought, interesting deadline. Traded
Bipolar.
away Kevin Gausman, traded away Dalton Varsho, traded away Jeff Hoffman, but they acquired Jose Soriano, acquired Jameson Taillon, which good luck with that one, guys, and acquired Josh Smith and Josh Steven from the Rangers. Um, I don't know if they're buying or selling. Like,
Yeah.
I think they're selling just because of Gausman and Varsho, but then again, they gave up a lot for Soriano.
Yeah.
So,
That was that they were not a team I even would think would the only thing I can even think of was they saw an opportunity to get, a pitcher who was under control for several more years and they
yeah,
thought it was worth the price. I mean, they did give up their top prospect, but I mean, Soriano's shown flashes of being really good this year. So I can understand why they did it. And for them, it seems like it almost be a, well, maybe we're not going to the playoffs this year, but we've really set ourselves up well for the future. Obviously they still need a couple other parts, but they have some solid players. And they just might need a couple more parts for next year, but I think they've set themselves up really well. I mean, if you look at their rotation now, they have Cease and Soriano.
yeah.
I'm sure I'm missing someone else too, but they have some good pieces.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. It's like it's just disappointing because like obviously they were a win away from the World Series
Yeah.
last year. And they still have a really good roster, I think, and
Yeah.
it's just not come together. So, all right, last team here, the Washington Nationals. I don't have much to say. Connolly early was a nice pickup. And then some prospects
Yeah.
for Luis Garcia Jr., Foster Griffin, and Joe Glacy. I mean, where are they now? Because they've been competitive. They're five, so they've kind of, I mean, they've fallen off a
Going off a
bit.
little bit.
Five and a half back of the wild card, so probably not likely. But kind of like the Cardinals, like kind of a smart move, I think, of,
Yeah, I would agree.
you know,
Very similar position.
they're retooling a bit or not retooling. They're still looking towards the future, but they're not in rebuild mode.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Which is
the
why, it was foolish to hear people throwing out that they should trade Abrams or
Abrams
someone like
or
that.
Wood, yeah.
Exactly, because they know who their core is going to be. And also, like some of those moves, like, yeah, I was really surprised still. I can't believe the early trade for Mead. I don't really see that. I think if you look at the trades they made in the last couple of years, they absolutely stole the Juan Soto deal with the Padres.
Yeah.
They really won the Mackenzie Gore trade. I mean, if you look at how that's working out for them this year, and now, they did, and I think some of those trades were in a sense like I think Foster Griffin was on an expiring contract. He's been solid this year, but
Yeah.
they weren't going to be able to sign him to an extension. So I really like what they did too. I think it was smart.
All right, that's all the teams. We have about 5.5 minutes left. So really quick, kind of post deadline, because I don't think we'll talk MLB again until the postseason or right before the postseason. Um, I think it's pretty obvious the Dodgers are still a favorite to win it
Yeah.
all. Who do you see being their biggest challengers, NL or AL, if it comes to
Yeah.
the World Series?
I mean, I think the Brewers can compete with them, just because of how successful they've been this year. Um, but we did mention that we felt like they could have done more. In the NL, I do think I'm not quite sold on the Braves. Obviously, they're a good team, but I just don't know if they can keep up with the Dodgers, either with their pitching or their offense. I think the Cubs are interesting because they can score a lot of runs, but I don't think they have the pitching to be able to handle that offense. Maybe in the
Right.
bullpen, but the starting, I just don't see it. And the Phillies were smart, at least I think they're helpful because they have a lot of lefties pitching, and that can help kind of mute the strengths of the Dodgers lineup. But I don't know if they're a very complete team either. So I think I just say the Brewers in the NL. The AL, I do think, it's not impossible for someone like the Rays or the Yankees to compete with them.
Right.
I wouldn't say they're the favorites, but I mean, in a 7 game series, anything can happen. We know this.
Yeah.
So it's just about can one of those teams like the Rays or the Yankees get to the World Series? And if so, they'll get their shot. Because when it comes to baseball in a 7 game series, I mean, even though you could be a heavy favorite, I mean, really anything could happen. If you get
Hmm.
hot at the right time, anything could happen. You need to play well for a 3 week stretch. That's very doable. So I just don't know that some of those, the only teams that I think that I could see getting hot for that stretch would be someone like the Yankees, just
Hmm.
because of all the potential offensively they have and their pitching. The Rays, I think, are solid, and the Brewers, I think, are solid. But other than that, I don't know that I see it anywhere else.
Yeah, I think. I mean, you highlighted the big three in the NL: Brewers, Cubs, Phillies. Um, I honestly, I'm really conflicted to think about what this last series meant in terms of the implications between the Cubs and Dodgers. Because, like, yeah, on the surface level, they swept them, they outscored them by only that last game was close because the Cubs bullpen imploded, and made it close. I'm not bought in on them being, in the same tier as them, but I think they have the formula down of, they have a up and down a good lineup. They have that star power, right? They
Yeah,
have, the defense I think is going to be huge. They're by
yeah,
far the best defensive team in baseball, and that always comes to shine in baseball in the playoffs. Like you said, it is going to be the starters, and granted, the starters, their job this series. I mean, somehow Javier Assad went toe to toe with Tarek Skubal, and it was fucking awesome. But I wouldn't bank on that in the
yeah,
playoffs. So I think they have the formula with the Brewers. I mean, we've been burned by them before. I mean, obviously last year, best record in baseball, they looked pitiful against the Dodgers, and
yeah,
I think their issue is as good as they are. Unfortunately, playoff times come, and like you do need that superstar or star level players. And like the
yeah,
Brewers have really good players, but do they have that one guy who can just, you know, kind of take over a game, which is really hard
yeah,
in baseball? I don't think they do.
No,
So, I mean,
because
maybe Mizorowski, but you're going to get him one game out
no,
of the series,
yeah.
1, 2 games out of the series. So,
Yeah, and I just think for them the biggest thing is they're very good at manufacturing runs, but they don't
hmm
have a lot of hitters in their lineup where they could carry a team for a series,
right,
where someone's going to hit 5 homers in a series. Like I just
right.
don't really see that happening for
And
them. So
that
they have to
that's
manufacture runs,
and
which is
that
not easy to do.
No, and that's why I lean Cubs and Phillies a little more because they do have those big swingers who you need PCA, you need Bryce Harper to take over for a series. They're
Yeah.
capable of that. So those would be my money bets in the NL, and then really quick in the AL just because we're out of time. Probably the Yankees just because they got the star power,
Okay.
which I think means a lot. So defense, we'll see, but star power is there. So. All
Yep.
right. Well, that'll do it for this episode. We'll be back next week. Maybe finally some football talk since they're about to get underway. Um, and yeah, enjoy the rest of whatever day you're watching this on, and we'll talk to everybody next week.